What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about and explaining compound interest, which I believe is the single most important factor in being able to maintain and build wealth, which hopefully in the long run will enable you to do a lot of things a bit more easily. For example, buying your first house, being less dependent on your day job, and being able to retire early. Now, people always want a step-by-step guide of how to become financially independent and even sometimes become a millionaire, but obviously it's not as simple as that. And hopefully by the end of this video, by understanding compound interest, you'll be able to see a way of actually being able to achieve these goals for yourself. Now, before we get into it, if you are new around here, welcome to the channel. On this channel we discuss all things money, so from personal finance tips to investment brokerage reviews and credit card reviews, this is the place to be. And if you're not subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell so you never miss a video. Now, I know it's a bit cheeky asking at the beginning of the video, but I'd really appreciate it if you guys could smash that like button, as it really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and enables YouTube to share my videos so that more people that might find them useful get to see them. Now, as always, just as a quick disclaimer, this is in no way financial advice. I'm simply just outlining information and giving my opinions and thoughts. And always make sure to do your own research before signing up for anything. But with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Okay, so compound interest. What is it and how does it work? So it's the basic idea of every time you earn interest on your money, rather than taking it out as profit and spending it, you simply reinvest that money back into the original investment so that it can earn that interest as well. Now, over a number of years, these constant reinvestments will build up into quite a large pot of money, which will allow you to make more money every single year through interest because you have a larger pot of money that will be earning interest. And then the idea is that over a number of years, these simple reinvestments will have a snowball effect, all from simply reinvesting your earnings. And eventually you'll be able to make a staggering amount of money over one small initial investment. And this is basically relevant anytime you have an investment that you feel comfortable with putting your money into. So for example, a stock market investment or a high interest savings account. Now, this all sounds really simple and quite easy to understand, but it seriously can be one of the biggest factors in enabling you to retire early, buy your first house, and basically become financially independent. Okay, so that's basically a simplified version of how it works, but let's now look at it in a bit more detail and see some other factors of how you can use it to further your success. So I think making the most of compound interest really comes down to three main factors. The first being saving money. Now, the most effective way to do this is to save consistently. So this might require you to sit down and think how much you can afford to save each month by looking at your expenses. And once you've settled on an amount that you feel comfortable with, you just need to make sure that you save that every single month. Now, the amount you save each month will clearly depend on your own situation and your circumstances, but you just need to make sure you find an amount that isn't too high, that it's stretching you too thin, but you also need to make sure that you're saving enough so it's worthwhile. And I always think it's better to start a little bit on the more conservative side of things, so save a little bit less than you maybe think you could, so you can start saving consistently, getting the hang of it, and then once you feel comfortable, maybe you can even up the amount you're saving each month, rather than being over ambitious, like I say, and stretching yourself too thin, and then potentially make it harder to pay your bills each month. Now, once you're saving consistently, the next really important step is to put that money somewhere where it can generate a high, consistent amount of interest. So you might think a fixed rate savings account that offers 1 to 2% in interest each year might be the way forward. Now, this will be fine and it's a good safe option. However, if you really want to take full advantage of compound interest, having a higher interest rate is one of the most important factors. So this is where it's worth looking beyond savings accounts and looking at investments instead. I personally find stock market investing to be the best option, and it's given me the most success. And it's actually surprisingly easy to start investing in the stock market and seeing fairly consistent returns each year that are much higher than something you'll be able to get in a savings account. So I think the best thing to look at for a beginner to start investing in the stock market is to look at index funds. Now, I've spoken a bit about this in previous videos, but if we look at the US stock exchange as an example, so the American stock market has an index called the S&P 500, and this is basically made up of the 500 largest US companies trading on the US stock exchange. So this includes companies like Apple, Facebook, Google, just to name a few. And on average, the S&P 500 index generates between 8 and 10% a year in growth. But obviously that's just an average, so due to market fluctuations, some years it might be more, others it might be less. And you could potentially even lose money some years. But the idea is if you invest consistently and hold your position for a long period of time, you should be able to take advantage of the average annual growth. So hopefully if you invest in an S&P 500 index tracking fund, you should also be able to make on average between 8 and 10% each year, which I think is a lot more appealing than a 1% interest savings account. So as I touched on, if you want to invest in the S&P 500, all you need to do is simply open a brokerage account and then find an S&P 500 index tracking fund, which is designed to track exactly what the S&P 500 does, rather than having to invest in each of those 500 companies. And then you simply continually invest your money that you're saving each month back into this fund, and hopefully over time you should be able to make a good amount of return. Now that's a really simplified version of how you can actually make money within the stock market through index funds. But if you want to see a dedicated video going into more depth about index funds and how to find investments, make sure to spam the comments and I'll get on and do that. So now we have the final and most important factor to be able to make the most out of compound interest, and that's to simply reinvest all of the profits back into the investment. So whatever investment opportunity you've gone for, whether it's a savings account or a stock market investment, you just need to make sure you reinvest all the profits. So this includes any dividends that your investment will have earned, and it also means that you just need to make sure not to skim any profits off the top. So if we use the example of the S&P 500 index tracking fund, each year you could potentially be earning 8 to 10%, but then the following year you'll be earning that same 8 to 10% off your initial investment, plus whatever it is you've gained the year before that. And over time this just snowballs and allows you to double your money remarkably quickly, and as long as you just keep reinvesting the profits and investing whatever it is you save each month, you'll hopefully be able to be a lot better off financially. So if you don't necessarily believe what I'm saying, let's look at some examples of other people that back the process. So first off, Albert Einstein is quoted to say that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, he who doesn't pays for it. And I think this is so interesting because it's actually so true, because the idea is so simple that all you need to do is simply reinvest your profits, and it will set you ahead so much further than people that don't understand this. And then we also have Warren Buffett, who's widely considered the world's most successful investor of all time, and he's been known to say that compound interest is the single most important factor behind his huge success in enabling him to become a multi-billionaire. Now, as with anything finance related, working out compound interest can actually be quite complicated, but it doesn't need to be. So back in the days before technology and the internet, to work out your compound interest might be a bit more difficult than it is now. And there's a formula to work it out, but honestly you don't need to know it, because it's just an additional complication that you don't need to bother with unless you have a keen interest in understanding it. So instead you can use online compound interest calculators, which I'll link below, which is really useful in enabling you to work out exactly how much you can make from an investment, and you can put in all the specific figures relevant to you to work out exactly how much you could earn and how many years it's going to take you to double your money, etc. Now another great thing you can use if you simply just want to work out how long an investment will take to double its money using compound interest. Say you don't have internet connection and you don't have access to a compound interest calculator at the time, you can simply just use the rule of 72. Now the rule of 72 was created by the man himself, Albert Einstein, and basically it's a really simple equation that will allow you to work out approximately how long an investment will take to double its money, assuming that the profits are compounded. Now this can be really useful in the real world to gauge how successful a potential investment might actually be. So to use the rule of 72, it's as simple as dividing 72 by the interest rate that you'll be earning on your investment. So for example, if I'm getting a 10% interest rate on an investment, I'll divide 72 by 10, so that's 7.2. So it'll take 7.2 years for me to double my money, providing that I compound the profits and reinvest them. So in comparison, if I was to skim off the profits each year rather than reinvesting them, it would actually take me 10 years to double my money, which is quite significant depending on your investment. So now we know how it works and we've got the tools of how to work out compound interest, let's now look at some real world examples, which will hopefully emphasise the importance of compound interest. Okay, so firstly we've got an example that hopefully most people will be able to relate to. So my first example is, say that you buy a coffee each morning from somewhere like Starbucks or Costa on the way to work. So that's 5 days a week, paying around £3 for a coffee, equating to £60 per month. If rather than doing this, you simply save that £3 each working day and invest it in the stock market, like the same example we talked about earlier with the S&P 500, which on average generates that 8 to 10% a year. After 32 years, in total you'll have saved £23,040 in total. But due to investing in the S&P 500, assuming we're getting 8% in interest each year, if you save all this money consistently and compound all the profits, you'll be left with £100,000 after the end of that 32 years. Which means by simply saving around £23,000 over 32 years, you'll have managed to generate £70,000 purely through compound interest and investing in something with a relatively high interest rate. Now I think this example is just unreal because it sounds way too good to be true. It's such a small amount of money that you're actually saving each month, but it actually allows you to build to a really significant amount of money and enabling you to double your money multiple times, all thanks to compound interest. Which in contrast, if you simply just continued to buy the coffee each morning, you'd have nothing to show at the end of it. Now the next example is one that's hopefully a bit more relatable to those who are quite keen savers. So imagine you save £500 each month and use the same investment strategy as we previously talked about, so you'll be generating 8% return each year. After 35 years, in total you'll have saved £210,500, but thanks to compound interest and that 8% interest rate, the total value of what you'll have saved will be over £1 million. So if you want a step-by-step guide of how to become a millionaire, this might be it. but it will take you 35 years and saving consistently. Now, just to quickly demonstrate how important the interest rate is when it comes to compound interest, if you were to save that same £210,500 after 35 years, but had that money invested in somewhere where you'll be earning 1% interest, in total you'll only have £252,000, which to me seems like a massive slap in the face, considering over that 35 years of savings, you could have actually turned that money into $1 million if you just invested in something with a higher interest rate. So in my opinion, it's always worth investing your money in something where there is potential to make high returns, because the safe option just simply isn't going to be the best way to make your money work for you. But actually, the beauty of investing in index funds particularly is that there's actually a lot less risk than you might think. So looking again at the S&P 500 index tracking fund, if you invest in just that, you'll be getting yourself quite a diverse portfolio of 500 companies that you've essentially got shares in. So if one starts performing particularly badly within there, you'll hopefully have other ones that will balance it out. So it's actually a lot less risky than finding one individual company to invest in. But also, because of the nature of the S&P 500, as it's made up of the 500 largest trading US companies, if one starts performing particularly badly, if its total value drops so far, it could actually fall out of the index altogether, which means you won't actually have shares in that particular company anymore. So this is hopefully another way of balancing the risk out. Okay, so that basically covers everything for today, guys, on compound interest, and hopefully you guys are now feeling a bit more informed and feel that you can use it to your advantage. Now, if you did make it this far, thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy the video or feel like you learned something new, I'd really appreciate it if you could smash that like button, as it really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and allows YouTube to share my videos to more people that might find them useful or helpful. And like I said before, if you're interested in money and personal finance, this is the place to be, so make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell if you're not already subscribed. And also, do let me know what you think in the comments down below. Have you heard of compound interest before, or is it a new concept to you? And also, I'd love to know your feedback if you have anything for me. And finally, if you do have any questions for me, just make sure to drop them in the comments down below and I'll make sure to respond to all of them. But with that being said, take it easy guys and keep saving.